This one feature is usually only seen in role-playing games. So how does it work in Cities Skylines 2? Let's talk about that. No!
City building is a journey led by your creativity and ambition. So the decisions you make along the way reflect who you are. To help you build a city that's true to you, Cities Skylines 2 puts 20 milestones packed with rewards directly in your path.
So there's 20 milestones. That much is obvious. That much was just said. And when it comes to unlocking milestones, it's basically experience. There is an XP system in Cities Skylines 2, and you will gain XP by just building your city. We will talk about this a little bit more in depth shortly, but the one thing I want to say about the XP system before we dive into it later in this video is that it is really good. It just makes sense. It just works. It just kind of continues. It's just a thing that's there and you sort of come to forget about it, but it does steer you in the right direction sometimes without you even knowing. I like it a lot, and we'll talk about it more shortly.
When you unlock a milestone, you're rewarded expansion permits. Expansion permits allow you to quickly add new map tiles to your city. But this isn't just about real estate. Use expansion permits to release tiles with the specific attributes you need to see your plans through.
So expansion permits are interesting. We have talked about these before in previous videos, so we'll not dive into it too much, but essentially an expansion permit will allow you to unlock a map tile. You will get different amounts of expansion permits per milestone, and you can go and unlock any map tile that you want. It doesn't have to be connected to your city. There are benefits to doing that. There are drawbacks to doing that, but you can do that if you want. Map tiles have stats as well. We can see them on screen at the moment. You have the buildable area, the amount of fertile land, oil deposits, groundwater, wood, and ore deposits are available and visible as well. And you can see how much the map tile costs. So that is just one thing that a milestone will give you if and when you achieve that milestone.
Milestones also reward you with development points. You need development points to add city services, the bedrock of a functioning metropolis. But just adding them isn't enough. The needs of citizens will change as the city expands, so you'll need to keep developing city services to keep pace. Your development points make it happen.
Much in the same way that every milestone will give you different amounts of expansion permits, you also get different amounts of development points. Now, development points are like skill points in tech and skill trees in different RPGs, and I've not seen too many systems like this in city builders. Not that that's a bad thing. I did have some worries about it, but it's not a bad thing. For example, you can spend your development points to unlock the university, and then at the next milestone, you're going to have some options. Or if you have some development points left over, you could just go ahead and unlock the technical university or the medical university, both of which have their own benefits. Or you can advance further towards the Large Hadron Collider, but unlike some of the previous unlocks, you will need both the radio telescope and geological research station for this one thing. And that is a thing that you'll see all across these tech trees. There are similar setups like that in the roads category where you're going to need, I think, large roads and highways. I might be wrong on that, but you need two things to get to intersections. So sometimes you've got a bit more of an investment in one thing than you do in other things, and that's going to be part of the fun in weighing up whether or not you want that one thing versus other things.
The city services you choose to add, how you develop them, and just how advanced you make them all make a big impact on the character of your city. This is how it works. Each city service has a development tree. The nodes on the development tree are more and more advanced buildings that level up the city service in a specific way. As you unlock these nodes, that city service becomes more sophisticated and specialized. When you first add a city service, you're at the base of the development tree, so you get the basics. Like when you add the city service public transportation, you get buses and taxis. Basic stuff. Spend development points to unlock nodes further along the development tree. In this case, you might invest in trains to move more people more efficiently. Or you might go in a totally new direction by taking to the skies. It's all up to you. Remember, the further you go along a development tree, the more development points you'll need to cough up, and they don't exactly rain from the sky. You might not add a city service at all, or you might not develop it very much. Others, you'll take all the way.
The main thing that I love about this system is the amount of freedom that it gives to you as the player, as the way you decide how to spend your points might be totally different to how I spend mine. So our cities are going to look and function totally differently because of that. It means that you have the option to truly have each of your cities play out differently and start differently and progress differently, rather than the progression being exactly the same every single time, because in Cities Skylines 1, it was tied to population.
Once you add a city service and unlock nodes on its development tree using development points, it's time to open your wallet. To actually pay for the construction of city service buildings, building extensions, and operational upgrades, you need cash. Don't worry, you can cover it with the monetary rewards you get when you unlock each milestone. By now, you're probably asking, how do I unlock milestones? It's all about expansion points, or XP. You'll rack up XP passively and actively. Passive XP are awarded up to 16 times during each in-game day. They're awarded as your city's population and the happiness level of that population increases. That's why smooth-running cities that foster the well-being of citizens make steady progress toward the next milestone. Active XP are doled out right when you make bold investments in your city. Watch them rack up when you plop a signature building or invest in core infrastructure like the city's road network.
So in my experience so far, earning XP quickly becomes something you just do. I mentioned it earlier, but really it's rarely something that you're going to be thinking about all the time and worrying about all the time, unless you're really itching for a specific unlock at the next milestone. It's like playing Cities Skylines 1 and just happening to stumble across the next milestone and sets of unlocks. It just happens. And that's cool. I like that. That said, I also like that it's not specifically tied to population in Cities Skylines 2, the way it was in the first game. It's simply about the overall happiness and quality of life for your Sims, as well as the placement of different buildings. Once again, the freedom is there for you to play things your way and still progress through everything that Cities Skylines 2 has to offer.
In Cities Skylines 2, milestone rewards empower you to unleash your creativity and ambition on the path to building a city that only you can.
And so we come to the end of the feature highlights portion of the video. As per usual, I've got a little something to say, then we'll jump into the developer insights. And this time around, I'm going to keep it relatively short. Honestly, I've talked a lot already about player freedom in Cities Skylines 2, and I think this system, the development tree, this system of unlocks is actually one of the greatest ways in which you can enjoy that freedom. Every city can progress differently according to the needs of your Sims and according to what you want to do as a player. And more player choice, in this case, is a good thing.
Hi, I'm Lauri. I'm a game designer at Colossal Order, and today we are progressing through the game progression. Just like in Cities Skylines 1, in Cities Skylines 2 we have the milestones. In Cities Skylines 1, the milestones were limited to the population of your city. In Cities Skylines 2, the milestones are unlocked by gaining expansion points. There are two ways of gaining XP in Cities Skylines 2. You can get XP by either building a building or placing a road. You can also get XP passively. Your passive XP is gained through if your city population is growing or your citizens are happier.
So I forgot that placing roads also gives you experience. I suppose the summary to all of this, all of the XP talk, is that XP is gained essentially through the overall growth of your city and the overall happiness rather than just population. But it also means that you can be rewarded for being creative, which wasn't so much a thing in Cities Skylines 1. yes, things looked cool, but you didn't really get much progression by building things that looked fancy. Whereas in Cities Skylines 1, you just had to grow your population to progress. This time around, it's just as valid to spend time carefully placing roads and parks and creating beautiful areas and districts with decoration and style and unique buildings and service buildings. That will progress your city as well as just growing the population. Either one is a valid option.
There are 20 milestones in the City Skylines 2, and as for the rewards for the milestones, there are the increase in the loan limit, monetary rewards, expansion permits, new features, new services, and of course the development points. So, what are development points used for? Well, they are used to progress through the development tree. Each city service has its own tree that you can progress through. You can unlock new city service buildings for that service with the development points in the development tree. That way you can truly develop your city in the way that you want to.
I realize I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but I really can't help but wonder about what exactly the development tree is going to look like after a couple of expansions to Cities Skylines 2. I love the idea of this thing just growing and growing and growing to the point that it looks like a game of Democracy 3 with so many little bubbles and paths for you to take. I also love the back and forth that you have with yourself when you're trying to decide if it's time for highways or if you would be better getting large roads or roundabouts or parking areas, which, as we already know, are something that can influence the behavior of your Sims in Cities Skylines 2. That kind of decision making, at least to me, is something I've not really had in a city builder before, not to this degree. That usually is something that's stuck to different role-playing games. Do I want more strength? Do I want more health? Do I want more magic? Whereas in Cities Skylines 2, it's arguably less exciting. It's arguably more exciting depending on what interests you more, but instead of saying, man, I really want more magic, this time around it's, man, I really want more roads.
For example, if the player really wants to focus on the public transportation in the city, they can spend their development points in the transportation development tree. Or, for example, if someone wants to really focus on the education of the city, they can just go ahead and unlock the college and the universities first before focusing on other aspects of the city. I think the players are gonna like the freedom that the development tree brings them, because that allows them to, develop the city just the way they want to. I usually like to advance through the roads development tree first, because that allows me to build the highways just the way I want them. We, the developers, cannot wait to see how you're gonna develop your own cities.
All right, so at this point, I'm willing to admit that freedom has kind of become a buzzword for Cities Skylines 2, but I still think it's appropriate. And I still think the scale and the sense of that freedom in this game is going to blow people away when they get their hands on it. Honestly, when I first saw the development point and XP and this general unlocking system, I was kind of weirded out, man. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think it would work. I really didn't think it would work in Cities Skylines 2, and I wasn't sure if I'd like it. But after however many hours I have in the game now, I can safely and happily say that I was wrong. I was so wrong to worry about it. Like I said earlier, I love the decisions that you have to make when it comes to unlocks, especially in the early game. Do you want to prioritize road infrastructure, or education, or the emergency services, or transportation? The choice is entirely yours, and while some might be more obvious than others, that freedom to pick your path is a part of what I love about starting new cities, and is a part of what I think makes so much more room for each city to be different in Cities Skylines 2. There is a tagline attached to this game. It is, "You build cities." That's true. It's not just an advertising marketing thing. In Cities Skylines 2, you really do build cities.